The observation deck of the UEF Dauntless offered a panoramic view of the Proxima Centauri B training grounds, a vast, gray plain of super-hardened lunar regolith dotted with obstacle courses, target ranges, and shimmering energy barriers. Standing at the viewport, Commander Ilara Vance watched the proceedings below with a detached, almost clinical calm. Beside her, her XO, Major Aris Thorne, scribbled notes on a data slate. Below, the annual Interspecies Special Forces Exchange was in full swing. It was a prestigious, high-stakes exercise, a chance for the Galactic Concord's elite to showcase their technological and tactical superiority. The humans, as the newest specialist species, were hosts, but they were widely considered the junior participants there to learn. Currently, a team of Vel, crystalline beings whose bodies could polarize light into devastatingly precise laser beams, were demonstrating their staccato volley technique. 100 high-speed drones, each no bigger than a hand, zipped through the air in a chaotic swarm. The Vel commandos stood motionless. Then, with a series of sharp cracks, their crystalline forms flashed. Dozens of drones evaporated into molten slag mid-flight, each hit with a laser pulse so fast it seemed instantaneous. The Vel leader, a tall, faceted entity named Cakesor, made a slight adjustment to his internal refraction, a gesture of pride. Impressive targeting speed, Aris noted, her voice flat. Nanosecond reaction times. Their predictive algorithms must be exceptional. Vance replied, her eyes not on the Vel, but on a human figure stretching lazily near the obstacle course. He wore a simple gray and red bodysuit, and was meticulously checking the laces on a pair of worn red sneakers with a faded golden wing logo. Specialist Kaido Sonic Jones. The next event was the Gauntlet, a 10-kilometer course through a simulated urban environment filled with auto turrets, moving barriers, and holographic hostiles. The goal was to reach the central terminal and input a code. The record, held by the Insectoid Cathari Rapid Strike teams, was 8 minutes, 42 seconds. It was considered untouchable. The Vel, confident, entered first. They moved with fluid, gliding grace, their lasers slicing turrets from walls before the weapons could even acquire a target. They navigated with perfect efficiency. Their time was impressive. 8 minutes, 55 seconds, just shy of the record. Cakesor's crystalline surface shimmered with satisfaction as he exited the course. Then, it was the human turn. The other alien observers, hulking Rukal bruisers, ethereal Gahel tacticians, watched with polite disinterest. The humans had fielded no team, only a single individual, Sonic. A murmur of confusion rippled through the alien observers on their dedicated platforms. Cakesor emitted a low, vibrating hum that translated as derisive query. A single soft-skinned organism? This is a tactical course, not a sprint. On the Dauntless deck, Aris looked at Vance. He's going to annoy them, isn't he? Almost certainly, Vance said, a faint, unreadable smile on her lips. Sonic approached the starting line. He didn't adopt a runner's crouch. He just stood there, rolling his shoulders. The course AI's synthesized voice boomed, "Begin!" What happened next was not movement as the galaxy understood it. One moment, Sonic was at the start. The next, there was a blurred streak of gray and red, a shockwave of displaced air that kicked up a plume of dust, and the first auto turret 50 meters away exploded into sparks as something passed through its firing arc at incomprehensible speed. The observers leaned forward. Sensor feeds scrambled to track him. He didn't run around the obstacles, he ran over them. He shot up vertical walls, his sneakers finding purchase where none should exist. He zigzagged through a maze of moving laser fences, not by waiting for gaps, but by passing through them in the microseconds between cycles. Holographic hostiles flickered and died, not because they were shot, but because the air pressure from his passage disrupted their projectors. He didn't fight the course, he insulted its very design by treating it as a flat track. The auto turrets fired, but their tracking systems were designed for targets moving at biological speeds. Their plasma bolts hit empty air, often striking the barriers behind where he had been. It was like trying to shoot a beam of light with a slingshot. Sonic reached the central terminal in a skid that sent gravel spraying. He didn't fumble for the code. He slapped the keypad with a rapid-fire sequence that was over in a second. The course timer froze. A stunned silence fell across the observation platforms. The display read, 2 minutes 17 seconds. Cakesor's crystalline form flashed with a chaotic, angry light. Impossible! The sensors are malfunctioning. This is a trick. On the Dauntless, Aris let out a slow breath. He beat the record by a factor of 4. The Vel are not happy. They rely on perfect targeting and prediction, Vance said, her eyes following the dust cloud settling on the course. Their entire doctrine is built on being able to hit what they aim at. Sonic just introduced a variable their doctrine doesn't account for, a target that exists in their aiming solution for less time than their firing cycle. Down on the field, Cakesore was demanding a recalibration, a rerun, a biological scan of the human for hidden propulsion units. The other alien teams were abuzz, their communications channels flooding with analysis and disbelief. Sonic, meanwhile, had retrieved a bottle of water and was drinking it, leaning casually against the terminal he had just hacked. He seemed utterly unimpressed with himself. The final event of the day was a live-fire capture-the-flag exercise, a large, rocky canyon zone, 2 bases, 2 flags. The Vel team, still seething, was pitted against a mixed human squad of conventional Marines. The rules allowed for simulated kills, energy-tagged hits that would disable a soldier's gear. As the exercise began, the human Marines moved with good discipline, using cover, providing suppressing fire. But the Vel were masters of terrain denial. From elevated positions, they painted the canyon with interlocking laser fire, creating lethal zones no human could cross. One by one, the Marines were tagged out, their gear going dark. The Vel advanced, methodical and unstoppable. From the observation deck, Aris frowned. They're going to be pinned down and eliminated. Our tactics aren't effective against that kind of precision. Vance nodded. They're playing the Vel's game and losing. She then tapped her comms unit. Command to Specialist Jones. You are authorized for disruptive observation. On the edge of the canyon, Sonic, who had been watching from a rock, grinned. He finished his water, crushed the bottle, and tossed it into a recycler. He didn't join the human squad. He didn't take a weapon. He simply started to run along the rim of the canyon, a blur against the gray sky. Cakesore, from his vantage point, saw the blur. His targeting matrix locked on, he fired a disabling laser pulse calibrated to hit a fast-moving human torso. The pulse hit empty rock. Sonic was already 10 meters further along, his path utterly unpredictable. He wasn't running a straight line, he was a chaotic ricochet of motion. Frustrated, Cakesore directed 2 of his team. Converging fire, pattern Delta 7. 2 more laser beams lanced out, intersecting at the point where Sonic's predicted path should have been. He wasn't there. He had veered straight down the near vertical canyon wall, his sneakers sending up puffs of dust. He was in the canyon now, a gray ghost zipping between the pinned down human Marines and the advancing Vel. He didn't attack, he just passed by. But his passage was a typhoon. He kicked up clouds of dust that scattered laser targeting. He ran past Vel positions so fast, the shockwave rattled their crystalline forms, disrupting their aim. A Vel commando fired at him. The laser hit the flagpole of his own base, severing it. The flag fell. Chaos erupted. The Vel, their perfect tactical harmony broken, began firing at the blur, often hitting each other's simulated positions or the terrain. The human Marines, seeing the disruption, rallied and pushed forward. Sonic, his job as the ultimate distraction done, ran straight up the opposite canyon wall, grabbed the enemy flag from its stand without breaking stride, and was back at the human starting point before the last Vel commando realized their flag was gone. The exercise klaxon sounded. Human victory. The observation platforms were dead silent. Cakesore stood rigid, his facets dark with humiliation and fury. His perfect technology, his unbeatable targeting, had been made to look slow, clumsy, and stupid by a single human in sneakers who didn't even carry a gun. On the Dauntless, Commander Vance finally turned away from the viewport. Speed, she said to Aris, her voice quiet but firm, is a technology all its own. One we seem to have mastered in a way they haven't even begun to understand. They think it's about going fast in a straight line. Sonic knows it's about changing the rules of the race. She looked at the data slate in Aris's hands. Make a note, Major. Doctrine update. Against precision-based enemies, introduce asymmetric velocity. Let them try to catch the Hedgehog. Down on the field, Cakesore was storming towards the human delegation, his form flashing with indignant light. The real challenge, Vance knew, was about to begin. Not on the training ground, but in the diplomatic aftermath. The lasers had failed. Now, the excuses would begin. The debriefing chamber aboard the UEF Dauntless was a tense bubble of human calm amidst a storm of alien outrage. Commander Ilara Vance sat at the head of a polished table, her hands steepled. Major Aris Thorne stood by a view screen, her expression neutral. Across from them, the Vel commander K-Sor glittered with agitated, sharp light. Representatives from the Cathari, Arkal, and the overseeing conquered arbiters were also present, forming a silent, judgmental audience. The events were an aberration. Cakesor's translated voice buzzed sharp as his lasers. An exploitation of exercise parameters, not a demonstration of martial skill. The human entity did not fight. It fled erratically. It used trickery and unnatural biology to disrupt a structured military evaluation. Aris tapped her data slate, and the view screen displayed slow-motion sensor logs of the gauntlet run. Trickery, Commander Caxor? Our sensors show consistent biological readings, no hidden tech. As for unnatural biology, Specialist Jones's capabilities are a result of advanced gene therapy and targeted training, all within the boundaries of Concord laws on self-modification. The same laws that allow the Vel to refine their crystalline photonic lattices. Caxor's facets flared. It is not the same! Our refinements are toward precision and control! This is chaos given legs! It has no tactical application in a real combat scenario against a thinking foe. It ended your simulated combat scenario in under 3 minutes, Vance remarked, her tone mild. It seems to have application. Before Cakesor could retort, the lead Concord arbiter, a serene, gelatinous umbra named Olgo, pulsed gently. The data is disruptive. The Vel objections are noted. However, the human victory stands within the exercise rules. The core issue is one of classification. Is this speed a weapon or a parlor trick? We require a field test, a real problem. Olgo extended a pseudopod, manipulating a holodisplay. A star map zoomed in on a remote asteroid belt in the system. During the exercises, our long-range monitors detected an anomaly. A small, automated listening post on asteroid X7 Theta has gone silent. It is a Concord facility monitoring for contraband signals. Initial scout drones sent to investigate were disabled by pinpoint laser fire from the asteroid's surface. The signature matches known pirate tech scavenged Vel civilian mining lasers, to be precise. Cakeser drew himself up. Pirates using stolen Vel technology? This is an outrage. A Vel purification team will cleanse the site immediately. We will demonstrate the proper use of laser technology. Olgo pulsed again, a shade darker. The pirates have taken shelter in the post's maintenance tunnels. It is a maze of tight metallic corridors. Your purification tactics, Commander Cakesor, are optimized for open space and clear lines of sight. Sending a team into close quarters against an unknown number of hostiles, who are armed with weapons that can, at point-blank range, pierce even Vel crystalline skin, is a high-risk operation. Unacceptable collateral damage to the post's core systems is also likely. The chamber was quiet. The problem was clear. A delicate, close-quarters extraction neutralization mission in a confined space against enemies armed with rapid-fire lasers. It was a scenario that nullified the Vel's long-range advantage and turned their own stolen technology against them. Vance saw the opportunity, clear and bright as a star. The specialist species designation, she said, all eyes turning to her, was created for problems that do not fit standard solutions. This seems to be such a problem. We propose a joint operation. A Vel team provides exterior containment and handles any hostiles that emerge. A human specialist handles the interior. Cakesor emitted a sound like grinding glass. Ridiculous! Send your hedgehog into a maze of lasers? He will be cut to pieces before he takes 3 steps. Perhaps, Vance conceded. Or perhaps the lasers will be facing the same problem they face today. A target they cannot lead. The post's core systems remain intact. The hostiles are captured or neutralized with minimal fuss. It is an efficient solution. She looked at Olgo. We volunteer. The arbiter deliberated, its form swirling. The proposal has merit. A controlled field test. Commander Cakesor, you will command the exterior perimeter. Commander Vance, your specialist, may attempt the interior clearance. Rules of engagement are live. The pirates are known killers. This is not an exercise. Cakesor, trapped by logic and the arbiter's authority, gave a stiff, furious nod of assent. An hour later, 2 shuttles approached the jagged rock of X7 Theta. The Vel shuttle hovered, Deploying 6 commandos who took up positions around the post's lone surface airlock, their forms blending with the asteroid's shadow. The human shuttle landed roughly a kilometer away. From it, only one figure emerged. Sonic Jones stood on the airless surface, his bodysuit sealed, a lightweight helmet with a clear visor covering his head. He bounced on the balls of his feet, the magnetic grips in his sneakers keeping him anchored. In his hand was not a gun, but a small, disc-like device, a multi-tool, and data tap. Radio silence once you're in. Vance's voice came through his helmet.com, crisp and clear. We'll have your biomonitor. Your objective is the central control room. Tap the main terminal, get us eyes inside. If you encounter hostiles, your priority is evasion. Let the Veil handle them if they flee. Understood? Go in. Tap the box. Don't get lasered, Sonic summarized, his voice laced with familiar nonchalance. Got it. He took a deep breath of recycled air and ran. On the Dauntless Bridge, the sensor feed from Sonic's helmet was a dizzying, jostling blur of gray metal walls and pipes. He had entered through a secondary maintenance vent Cakesore had dismissed as too narrow. Inside, the tunnels were exactly as described. Cramped, dark, and lined with machinery. Almost immediately, a pirate, a hulking, genetically modified brute with a scavenged laser rifle welded to its arm, rounded a corner. It saw a blur, its combat instincts firing. It raised its arm and fired a sustained beam down the corridor. Sonic didn't reverse. He accelerated. He ran up the wall, over the ceiling, and past the brute before its brain could process the vertical movement. The laser scorched the empty floor where he had been. A sharp, annoyed thump echoed through the audio feed as Sonic, in passing, kicked the back of the brute's knee with enough force to buckle the joint. The pirate crashed to the deck, bellowing in confusion and pain. First contact, hostile neutralized, Aris reported from her station, her voice admirably steady. Cakesore's voice, tight with disapproval, crackled on the command channel. A lucky blow. The next will shoot faster. The next did. 2 pirates covering a junction. They saw the blur this time and fired in a crisscross pattern, filling the corridor with lethal light. Sonic's feed became a storm of light and shadow. He didn't try to go through, he spun, jamming his disc tool into an access panel next to him. The door to a side conduit, meant for coolant lines, hissed open. He dove through the opening just as the lasers converged, slicing the air he'd occupied. He was in a pipe barely wider than his shoulders, shooting through darkness. He's redirecting, Vance murmured, watching the map of the post overlay his biosigns, using the infrastructure as his terrain. He popped out near the central control room. A final guard, more cautious, was stationed behind a makeshift barricade of crates, his laser rifle sweeping the approach corridor. This one had set up a motion sensor. A small red light blinked. Sonic stopped. For the first time, he was still. He picked up a loose bolt from the deck. He threw it down a side corridor. The motion sensor beeped. The guard swiveled and fired. In that half second of diverted attention, Sonic moved. Not as a blur, but in 3 swift, silent steps. He was at the barricade, then over it. The guard started to turn back. He never finished the motion. A precise, armored chop to the neck, and the pirate slumped. Sonic stepped over him, slid the disc tool into the control room door's manual override, and was inside. The room was empty. The main terminal glowed. He slapped the disc onto it. Instantly, schematics, internal camera feeds, and pirate communications flooded the Dauntless. We have control, Aris announced. 6 hostiles remain, all in the mess hall. They are unaware. Cakesore's voice was brittle. We have them contained. My team will storm from the main airlock now that we have interior visuals. Negative, Commander Coxor, Vance said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Your method risks the hostiles destroying the core in a last stand. Specialist Jones is on site. He will secure the prisoners. She switched to Sonic's private channel. Sonic, the mess hall. Non-lethal takedown. They cannot be allowed to trigger any destruct charges. On the helmet feed, Sonic looked at the camera feed of the 6 rough-looking pirates laughing over a card game, their weapons leaning against the wall. He cracked his neck. Finally, he said, a fair fight. He exploded from the control room door. The feed became a hurricane of motion. He didn't enter the mess hall. He hit the door at full speed, tearing it from its hinges and sending it clattering into the room. The pirates scrambled. One reached for his laser. He was disarmed by a kick that sent the rifle spinning into the ceiling. Another swung a fist, hitting only after images. Sonic was a whirlwind of controlled, devastating motion. A trip here, a pressure point strike there, a disarming grab. It was over in less than 10 seconds. 6 pirates lay on the deck, groaning, tangled in their own limbs and webbing he'd ripped from the walls to bind them. Silence, save for the pirates' moans, filled the channel. Then, Sonic's voice, slightly breathless. Objective secured. Package is tied up with a bow. You can send in the cleanup crew. Tell them to watch their step. It's a bit messy. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Vance allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. She looked at the stunned face of Cakesor on the comm screen, and then at Arbiter Olgo. Field test complete, Arbiter. The parlor trick, it seems, has tactical application. Outside the asteroid, the Vel Commandos stood guard, their powerful lasers useless, their role reduced to that of spectators and janitors. The message was clearer than any laser beam. Alien lasers couldn't catch a hedgehog, and now the whole galaxy knew it. The return to the UEF Dauntless was not met with fanfare, but with a heavy, loaded silence. In the main hangar, the Vel shuttle sat cold and dark, its commandos having already transferred back to their own vessel, the Luminous Edge. The human shuttle landed softly, its ramp descending to reveal Specialist Kaito Jones, looking more like a mechanic after a hard shift than a Special Forces operative. He pulled off his helmet, ran a hand through his spiky hair, and headed for the debriefing room, his sneakers making soft squeaks on the polished deck. Commander Vance and Major Thorne were waiting. Eris handed him a nutrient bar. Your vitals spiked at the end. Adrenaline dump. Eat. Thanks, Doc, he said, taking it without looking. The Arbiter is concluding discussions with Commander Coxor, Vance said, her gaze fixed on the main view screen which showed the Luminous Edge, a sleek crystal dagger of a ship hanging in the void. They are recalibrating their assessment. They're mad they had to play doorman, Sonic said around a mouthful of bar. They are facing a paradigm shift, Vance corrected, though her tone wasn't disapproving. Their entire martial identity is built on being the fastest, most precise thing in any engagement. You just proved that in certain contexts, raw, unpredictable velocity trumps precision. It's a blow to their doctrine and their pride. Ares brought up the data from the asteroid post. The pirates are singing, by the way. They had no idea what hit them. Literally. Their descriptions are colorful. They thought it was a poltergeist or a faulty grav generator. Before Vance could respond, the comms officer spoke up. Commander, incoming priority transmission from Arbiter Olgo. And Commander Coxer is requesting a private channel with you. Vance exchanged a glance with Eris. Put the Arbiter on the main screen. Tell Coxer I will speak with him shortly. The gelatinous form of Olgo filled the screen, its usual serene pulses slightly agitated. Commander Vance. The field test was conclusive. The human operative's capabilities are formidable within a specific niche. The Concord acknowledges this. However, Commander Cakesor has raised a final and, in his view, definitive point of contention. Which is, Vance asked. Scale, Olgo stated simply. A single operative in a tunnel is one matter, a battlefield is another. Coxor contends that your Hedgehog is a tactical novelty, useless in a fleet engagement or a planetary assault where area denial weapons and massed fire would render such speed irrelevant. He has, in fact, issued a challenge, a final simulation, a full-scale, fleet-level wargame scenario, his Luminous Edge and its attendant drones against the Dauntless. He wishes to prove that in the vastness of space, precision and power will always overwhelm a fast runner. A cold knot formed in Vance's stomach. A war game against a Vel cruiser was a serious escalation. The Dauntless was a capable explorer and command ship, but it was not a dedicated warship like the Luminous Edge. It was a contest they were not designed to win. Sonic, who had been listening while stretching his calves, looked up. What's the scenario? Olgo pulsed. A standard planetary blockade run. The Dauntless must simulate a delivery of vital supplies to a besieged planetoid. The Luminous Edge must prevent it. The simulation uses live fire for point defense and tagged ordnance for main weapons. A direct hit from a simulated laser lance will score a kill. He wants to swat a fly with a battleship, Aris muttered. He wants to prove a point on the grandest stage he can, Vance said. She straightened. Arbiter Olgo, we accept. Commander, Aris began, but Vance held up a hand. If we refuse, we confirm his belief that our advantage is a small room trick. We must play, but we will play by our rules. She turned to Sonic. Specialist Jones, you're familiar with the Dauntless's external maintenance crawlways, the sensor blind spots? Sonic's eyes, which had been glazed with boredom, sharpened into focus. A slow grin spread across his face. Every inch. I used to race through them during night shifts. Good. You have a new objective. You're not on the board. You're under it. 20 minutes later, the war game commenced in a designated sector of empty space. The planetoid was a holographic projection. The Dauntless, painted with targeting sensors, maneuvered with careful, deliberate grace, her point defense guns swatting at the clouds of Vel-sensor drones Cakesor launched. The luminous edge hung back, a predator at range. Its powerful main lance, even in simulation mode, glowed with contained energy. It fired a beam of coherent light, faster than any projectile, lanced towards the Dauntless. Vance ordered a hard evasive burn. The beam grazed their starboard shielding. A warning klaxon blared a shield breach in simulation terms. He's not trying to destroy us, Aris reported from Tactical. He's hurting us, boxing us in with drone swarms and near misses. He wants to force us into a perfect firing solution for a kill shot. He's making it a demonstration of perfect control. On the screen, Cakesor's face appeared. Do you see, Commander? Your Hedgehog is irrelevant here. There is no corridor to run in, only the void and my light. Vance ignored him. Status of our specialist? He left through airlock Gamma 2 minutes ago, a tech reported. Biosigns are erratic. He's moving along the hull. Outside, in the absolute silence and deadly cold of space, Sonic Jones moved. He wasn't running. In a vacuum, with only magnetic grips on his suit and sneakers, true speed was impossible. But he was fast. He spider crawled along the Dauntless's hull, using sensor arrays and communication spires as handholds, staying in the blind spots created by the ship's own structure and the angle of the luminous edge's approach. His target was not the enemy ship, it was the Dauntless herself. Specifically, the main dorsal sensor array. On the luminous edge, Cakesor watched his tactical display. The Dauntless was cornered. His next lance shot would be a direct hit to the engines, a disabling strike. He began the charging sequence. This ends now. At that moment, a junior officer spoke up, confusion in its crystalline voice. Commander, we are receiving an anomalous data burst from the human vessel. It is overriding our simulation link. It's feeding us false telemetry. The pristine image of the Dauntless on Cakesor's screen flickered. For a split second, it appeared to be in a different position, 3 degrees to port. Then it corrected. Then it flickered again. What is this? Electronic warfare from a science vessel? Caxor snapped. Filter it out. We are trying. The signal is not coming from their main computer. It is coming from their external hull, from the dorsal array. It's being physically tampered with. On the hull, Sonic had pried open a maintenance panel on the sensor array. Using his multi-tool, he had jury-rigged a connection, feeding a loop of slightly old positional data directly into the array's outgoing feed. To the luminous edge, the Dauntless's location was now a blurry, jumping ghost image. Cakesor, enraged and relying on his perfect systems, fired his main lance at what his computer said was the Dauntless's engine core. The brilliant beam shot through empty space, a kilometer off the Dauntless's actual starboard side. On the Dauntless bridge, Vance saw the miss on her own. Accurate screens. He took the bait, all ahead, emergency thrust, straight down his throat. The Dauntless, no longer pretending to be crippled, surged forward, not away, but directly towards the luminous edge. At point-blank range, a capital ship's main lance was useless. It was a move of sheer, reckless aggression. Core, Cakesor. His systems confused, scrambled to retarget his point defense lasers and secondary batteries. But the Dauntless was closing too fast, its image still flickering in his targeting systems. And then, a new alert. Commander, a small object has detached from the human hull. It is on an intercept course. Impact in 3 seconds! It was Sonic. He had pushed off from the Dauntless with all the strength in his legs, a tiny, suited projectile aimed at the glittering bridge canopy of the luminous edge. He tumbled through the void, a speck against the vast warship. Cakesor saw it on visual, a human form growing larger. Instinctively, he ordered point defense lasers to target it. They swiveled, locked, and fired. Dozens of low-powered laser beams, designed to vaporize missiles, converged on the tiny target. Sonic couldn't dodge in a vacuum, but he could prepare. As he flew, he held up his multi-tool disc, now set to its most reflective setting. The brilliant Vel lasers hit the polished surface. For a nanosecond, a significant portion of their energy didn't absorb. It reflected, scattering in a dazzling, chaotic burst of light directly into the luminous edge's own forward optical and targeting sensors. The ship was momentarily blinded. In that second of sensor confusion, Sonic's trajectory carried him past the bridge, close enough for the officers inside to see the determined look on his face behind his visor. He slammed the disc, now magnetized, onto the hull near the bridge with a clang that was felt, not heard. Then, the Dauntless's grappler beam, timed perfectly, lanced out and reeled him back in like a fish. The simulation klaxons on both ships wailed simultaneously. The Arbiter's neutral voice filled the bridges. Scenario conclusion. The Dauntless has successfully delivered its simulation payload to the planetoid coordinates. The luminous edge has failed its interception. Furthermore, the Edge's bridge has been tagged for a simulated close-range boarding action. Victory is awarded to the UEF Dauntless. On the Dauntless bridge, cheers erupted. Vance allowed herself a full, triumphant smile. On the screen, Cakesor's face was a masterpiece of stunned, crystalline disbelief. He had been beaten, not by a bigger gun, but by a flickering sensor ghost and a man with a mirror, using his own perfect lasers against him. His doctrine of precision had been defeated by misdirection, improvisation, and sheer, brazen nerve. Arbiter Olgo's image returned. The demonstration is complete. The human hedgehog does not fight the battle. He changes the battlefield. This is a valid form of warfare. The Concorde recognizes the specialist species niche as expanded. Congratulations, Commander Vance. Later, in her ready room, Vance looked at Sonic, who was now in a clean uniform, complaining about the taste of recycled nutrients. You used his light against him, she said. Sonic shrugged. You guys were busy with a big dance. I just had to mess with the lights a little. He looked out the viewport at the retreating speck of the luminous edge. He'll never look at a sensor blip the same way again. Vance knew it was true. Alien lasers couldn't catch a hedgehog. And now, they couldn't even trust their own eyes when one was around. Humanity had not just won a war game, they had introduced a new, deeply unsettling variable into the galactic equation. And as Specialist Kaito Jones walked out, the sound of his sneakers fading down the corridor, Commander Elara Vance knew that sometimes the most powerful weapon wasn't a beam of light, but the shadow it couldn't quite illuminate.